Tubers, tubettes, and of course the assorted collection of crazy people. Sadly, the first year that I lived here, I had a friend of mine die. And what's really sad is that he didn't need to. He died unnecessarily due to something that was completely preventable. As the universe would have it, another friend of mine, more recently, came down with the same affliction, which was completely preventable. And so I thought this would be kind of a good little public service video for those of you already living here, if you're still watching the channel, or those thinking about coming here, or to any other developing country. And so we talk a lot about hospitals and motorcycle accidents and things like that, but this is something completely different, and I've never heard it spoken of before, and yet it happens more frequently than you know. So I asked my friend Mark to come on the channel and explain to you what happened to him and how it could have been prevented, and maybe it'll be something you can put in the back of your hard drive and remember so that it doesn't happen to you too. Okay, here's my little interview with my friend Mark. Alrighty, so I'm here with Mark. Mark has now been in the Philippines for 1 year. Hey, and it's been kind of an up and down roller coaster for my friend over here. And what I wanted to talk about in this video, or have Mark explain in this video, is how a little thing can turn into a big thing, and maybe some ways to exercise a little bit of caution and not be quite so hard-headed. Would that be fair?
Oh, that'd be more than fair, yeah.
All right, so you're here a year. Everything's kind of cool and groovy. You got your moments. You get an apartment, this, that, the other. And then you went to a place called Port Royale. And Port Royale is a water park, right? And this was about 6 months into the journey here.
About 6 months ago, yeah.
What happened at Port Royale?
Port Royale, well, first of all, for those that don't know, Port Royale is a big water park. It's awesome, great, go visit it. Not to plug that, but I was there with friends, and they convinced me to go down this big, they've got a giant slide. And I had been down it before, but this time there was someone actually monitoring it up top, and the guy pointed at the sign and said, "You can't get on this ride, buddy." Basically, it said anybody over 150 pounds cannot ride on it. So that cuts out about 99% of us foreigners.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
that right there. So I've got to do the walk of shame and go back down the stairs, which are concrete and they're wet. And and for those of you that don't know, the stairs in the Philippines, they're not. We've got more standard stuff in the United States.
Size-wise, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're all, I believe it's 7 inches apart. So you get used to that. But here, it can be, this one's 7, this one's 7.5, there's 8 inches, there's 6. And so you can get a little bit of vertigo. You can get dizzy going down these stairs and everything.
I do it all the time.
It's not, you know, I wish they'd standardize that stuff. But I'm not here to complain about stairs. But just to tell you what happened to me was going down the stairs, I slipped. My whole life flashed before my eyes because I could just imagine my head hitting the back of that concrete step. You know, that didn't happen, thank God. I was able to save myself somewhat, but one of my butt cheeks hit pretty hard, and I had a bruise that was the size of about a bowling ball, and I broke 3 ribs. So that was great. So got back down the stairs, got back in the water, swam over to my friends, and finished my beer. There's nothing you can do. There's no point in seeing a doctor over the broken ribs because I knew what they were going to do.
Did you wrap them? Did you wrap them up?
I didn't do anything for it. You know,
right.
just public service announcement for broken ribs. Stay away from ground pepper so you don't sneeze. And if you have a friend that's funny, stay away from them. You don't want to laugh.
Yeah.
You know, and if you smoke, be careful. You're going to cough, and that's going to hurt.
Yeah, nothing more painful than broken ribs, and it's really just its own healing process. Right?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do.
It's the whole, like, sleeping is hard and everything.
Now here's the real driver that I want to bring home for everybody, because I had a friend die from this exact same set of circumstances. So I want you to pay attention, please, for your own good, your own safety, to Mark here. About a week later, you had your broken ribs and everything, but you were still ambulatory. You were driving.
Yeah.
What happened?
I was fine. Well, I was coming home, and most people here live in a gated type community. There's a gate that you have to open to get your bike or your car through and stuff. So I had to park my bike, at the gate, and obviously get off it and open the gate. Well, what I did was something I've done 100 times. I get off the bike, I put the kickstand down, go to get off the bike. Well, I didn't even realize it, but I had put the kickstand in some sort of divot, a little recess. So the bike started going down. I'm already off of the bike most of the way, and it's going down with me on it, basically. So I'm grabbing the handlebars and trying to get one leg down, and I did get it down, my left leg, but I got it down, and my knee went and hit the ground. And so hit the ground, no big deal. I got a little scrape, the kind that you had when you were a kid when you're riding your bicycle.
When you fell off your bike or your skateboard or whatever.
Yeah.
The proverbial scratched knee, scraped elbow, and you'd go home and your mom would, squirt Bactine on it, and that was that. And you went about your day, right?
Yeah,
okay.
I went about my day. Never thought twice about it. I used to do that back home all the time. And my ex would ask me, where'd you get that cut? Where'd you get that bruise? Where'd you get that scrape? Like, I don't know. I get that stuff all the time. I don't pay attention to it. It's not a big deal.
So what happened to that cut?
What happened to that cut was I ignored it like I'm used to ignoring everything.
And it was about that big?
It was just about that big, about the size of a quarter. Just a minor scrape. Didn't hurt, just a scrape, just a little cut.
On his knee.
Drew a little bit of blood, but no big deal, And I go about ignoring it like I do with any cut or bruise or scrape or anything like that. And so time went by and it started hurting. And then it started hurting a little more. And then it started developing, it was getting a little bit, pussy and stuff. So it's like, okay, great. I've got an infection. All right, let me see if this is going to go away on its own, like a lot of us do. Not very smart. I'm going to scrub it.
This really hurts. I better do my best to ignore it.
I'm going to scrub it real good in the shower. And so I did that, and it seemed to help it a little bit. It seemed to help, and it basically scabbed over. Okay, so a lot of us compulsive idiots do stupid things like, hey, it's got a scab. Let me scrape that thing off. I don't know why, but, I did that, and now it's exposed again. Stupid. So, again, the infection's coming back again, and it's getting a little bit more and a little bit more. And so then the next thing you know, I've got an appointment, got to go to the LTO.
So, Land Transportation Office.
Yes.
That's the same as the DMV.
Right. So there, with my girlfriend to go, and we're trying to get her license. And for anybody that's been over to the LTO in that area, it's not, the most sanitary or whatever. They've got some garbage laying around and things like that. So that draws a bunch of flies. And so there were flies over there. Me, being the genius that I am, I didn't have a bandage on my open wound because I never did back home. So now I've got an open wound and there's flies and they're just landing on it constantly and I just can't keep them off. I'm waving and can't keep the flies off. So I imagine some fly went and, dropped something or left something on there that I didn't really like and my body didn't appreciate. And next thing I know, that infection is now becoming a full-blown, it's stepping up the whole process of being something really bad.
Did it develop a secondary area on your leg?
It did.
You had the initial one in one spot, and then down your leg,
Yes.
Okay.
So the initial one was about the size of a quarter, a little scrape about the size of a quarter. So then down about, you go an inch down my leg past that, or 2 inches, it basically, another secondary infection erupted from underneath the skin, and this thing was the size of probably, a large $50 or whatever. It's much bigger. And it was a lot scarier than the first infection, the first infection is now basically a secondary. So now the scary one is below it. And that thing was just running amok. And next thing I knew...
So you immediately went to a doctor, right?
Yes, because I'm a genius. No, I didn't. So this old dog here...
A normal person would say, wow, this looks like a real problem. I better get to a physician.
Well, this is
What'd you do, Mark?
This is why we're doing the public service announcement, Paul. It's to tell people, if you're not a doctor, go see one. You're not a genius. Don't be stubborn like me. I didn't see a doctor. I thought, it'll go away. No, the swelling got worse and worse and worse. And it's getting to scary worse. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to go to a doctor. No, I didn't, because I'm still stupid. I went down to the pharmacy and I talked them into giving me some antibiotics, some azithromycin. So I got that, thinking, that's what the doctor's going to do anyway. I'm smart because I've been on WebMD before. And,
ask Google.
I'm a smart guy. I know to ask Google. Yeah, it'll tell you exactly what to do.
Or better yet, you should listen to a YouTuber.
Yes, you could do that.
I'll tell you.
Next time I have a medical problem, I'm gonna call up a YouTuber. So this was now normally I'll research everything. I hadn't even done that yet. What have I got? Stuff. I went and got the antibiotics and I started taking them. Then I started researching this thing as my leg is getting big, really big, and I'm starting to feel pain going up. Now, mind you, the infection is below my knee. I'm feeling pain above my knee now, and it's crawling up in the inside of my thigh. I'm thinking, okay, that's not good. First of all, how do you get an infection that erupts from under the skin, a secondary one? This is not good. So now I'm starting to do the research before seeing a doctor that which I should have done. I found out I had cellulitis. And for those of you that don't know what that is, hey, look it up. It's a bad skin infection that you get, and it's kind of a precursor to the next thing, which is sepsis.
What's that?
Sepsis is, let's see, it's about 2 steps before being put 6 feet under.
That's blood poisoning, right?
It is blood poisoning. So, if they catch it in time, they can treat it. If you don't catch it in time, well, sometimes they can treat it and you're in the hospital for 6 months. You can be in there for a long time. Or, get the hearse ready,
So you finally got to a doctor?
I finally called a doctor. I told him what the deal was, and he said, oh, no. He said, okay, what have you been doing? And I told him the antibiotics I had been taking. Came to find out I was taking the wrong antibiotics, so he gave me a different course of antibiotics, and I took those, and it started getting better.
Did you ever go in the hospital and get IV'd or anything, or no?
No, I never went to the hospital. I never did any of that. I'm not smart enough.
Okay.
Apparently, I don't know. I should get my IQ tested. Literally, a scrape almost did me in. I'm not to tell too much about my past, but people were shooting Scud missiles at me, and I lived through that. And a scrape was going to do me in now. I'm going to come all the way across the world to be done in by a little scratch on my knee.
Yeah. See, Mark's, God bless him. Well, how many years military?
I was 24.
24 years. After that, you worked for, I don't know if we can say it or not, but Homeland Security?
I was in Homeland Security for a while.
Okay, so he was involved in that, and so he's a man's man, and you brush it off, and you just move forward, right, and complete the mission and get it all done. Yeah, and that's your mentality. So you get a little scrape on your leg.
Yeah. Well,
come on.
As a kid, it's completely opposite of what you do here.
That's right.
As a kid, what would your parents tell you? Rub dirt on it.
Yeah.
Rub dirt on it. Go literally, you rub dirt on it over here, it might be the last thing you do.
Yeah.
You have to be careful. There's things over here that, you may not have been exposed to before that, can have an adverse effect on your health.
So that's the whole point of this. And sadly, I had a friend when I first got here 6 years ago, same MO here without the broken ribs, but had a cut on his ankle and drove with flip-flops on, no covering, and did not cover the cut or bandage it or gauze it or put any kind of antibiotic cream or anything like that on it. Just ignored it and drove through a puddle and in jumped the funky stuff that our bodies over here, when you're from America or from Europe or wherever you're coming from, are not accustomed to. It's a whole new enchilada. And so that is what happened to Mark here. He had a scrape, a simple scrape on his knee. He's thinking that it was the flies over at the LTO. Probably was.
Maybe not.
It could have been some water splashed on it. There's all kinds of funky stuff. The whole purpose of this video, I know it sounds like a knucklehead video, but I really feel compelled to do it because I lost a friend to this. He went to a doctor back in the day, but his wife insisted that he go to a witch doctor, not a physician, and he listened to her. And now we buried him 3-4 years ago. This man was, you said it, close to the coffin time. Because if you had let this go, if you hadn't have made the phone call to the doctor, that would have been the result.
I think if I would have gone another week, it would have been very, very serious. It would have been not looking good on my part. I don't know if it would have led to, you know, me dying or whatever, but at least I would have been in the hospital, which, who wants to be in the hospital for months, you know?
And spend that time, that money, and go through the agony and possibly lose your leg or whatever else might happen. I don't know. But my point of this whole video is, and I know it's not the usual banter and all that kind of stuff, this is relatively an informational video that I wanted to share for the guys that are coming over here, and maybe guys that may possibly still watch that are here. You get any kind of open wound on your, especially your lower extremities, where it's going to be exposed to any kind of water, puddle, mud, flies, etc. The minute that that happens, you need to take some Neosporin or its equivalent and put it on there. You need to tape it off. You need to put gauze. You need to wrap it, and you need to keep that puppy clean and change that bandage, because I know it sounds silly and I know it sounds exaggerated, but just that opening it's just an entryway for all kinds of nasty little critters, bugs, bacteria, and that's basically it. We could talk a lot more about Mark's history and all that kind of stuff, but I really wanted to just get together with him today to go over that little story. Number one, the incident at Port Royale. That is more common than you know. Over here, their steps are not even. They're not equal. You've got to be cautious. Use handrails. Lean on something. I get vertigo all the time. I get dizzy.
If they have handrails.
If they have handrails. You know what you might want to do? Just don't go on the ride. If it looks like there's a possibility you could get hurt, why go through that agony?
Well, it's everyday set of stairs.
Yeah.
There's apartments that I've looked at and I said no, never, because I can't go up and down those stairs.
Yep.
You know, because
No, there's 2-story houses here all day long, and they're just off. I don't even look at them anymore. They're off my radar because they're like this. They're not easy sloping stairs that go up in a zigzag. Not at all. Open wounds, open cuts, infections. That's it. So that's the medical report from the old dog today and my friend Mark.
Public service announcement.
Thanks for coming on, Mark.
Hey, no problem.
All right. We'll see you crazy people next time. Bye.